to Deep Sleep Stories. Thank you to everyone who's been listening. If these stories help you relax or fall asleep, a short review, comment, or sharing the podcast with someone who might benefit is a simple and meaningful way to support the show so that we may continue to offer it for free. Now, take a slow, gentle breath and let's begin tonight's story.
Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories, where your only task is to soften, to settle, and to drift at your own gentle pace. Tonight you'll follow a quiet little cat into a forest of ancient trees, where a warm catnap waits among winding roots and whispering moss. Take a moment to let the day loosen its grip. Let your shoulders drop, as if they've remembered how to rest. Unclench your jaw, smooth your forehead. Feel the weight of your body supported, held, and safe. Breathe in slowly, as if you're sipping calm air through a straw, and breathe out with a long, unhurried sigh, letting the breath carry away any sharp edges left behind by busy hours. In again, soft and steady. Out again, a gentle release. Imagine that you are standing at the edge of a woodland that welcomes you the way a familiar blanket welcomes tired limbs. The air is cool but kind, sweet with the scent of damp earth and crushed leaves. Somewhere nearby, water speaks in a low, soothing voice, not rushing, not insisting, just murmuring the same comforting phrase again and again. A path waits under your feet, padded with pine needles and small rounded stones. Above you, branches weave together like patient hands, braiding a roof of green. The light beneath the canopy is tender and dim, the sort of light that slows thoughts and smooths them into something simple. As you breathe, your attention can become as gentle as the air itself. Nothing needs to be solved, nothing needs to be remembered. If your mind wanders, it can wander the way a leaf wanders on a stream, turning slowly, gliding along, never in a hurry to reach any particular place. You take one easy step and then another, and the forest seems to breathe with you. The sound of the world beyond grows quieter. Even time feels softer here, as if the minutes have put down their burdens and decided to sit for a while. And while you stand on that calm path, with the dim light resting on your skin like a warm cloth, the story begins to shift just slightly so you can rest more deeply. Not far away, beneath the same braided canopy, a small cat moved with the delicate confidence of someone who belonged to the hush. Her paws made almost no sound as she wandered along the edge of the path, stepping from needle-soft ground to velvety moss, from a patch of shadow to a patch of shade that looked almost blue. She was a forest cat, though not wild in any fearful way. She carried the forest in her whiskers and the patience of old trees in the slow blink of her eyes. Her fur was the color of toasted cream, with faint stripes like ripples in sand, and when she turned her head, her ears flicked as if they were tasting the quiet for distant notes. The cat paused beside a fern unfurling in a spiral, and she lifted her nose to the air. The scent of wet bark, mushroom-dark soil, and the faint sweetness of sap drifted past her, somewhere a bird made a single sleepy call and then fell silent, satisfied with the sound it had offered. She blinked again, long and languid, and continued onward, not following any urgent purpose. It was the kind of wandering that happened when the world was safe and the body knew it. As she walked, the forest shifted in small, gentle ways. The trees grew thicker, their trunks wider, their roots more visible above the soil like old knuckles and braided ropes. Moss clung to everything, as if the ground had decided to dress itself in softness. Tiny white flowers dotted the green like quiet stars, and every now and then the cat stepped around a puddle that reflected the canopy like a dark mirror. A breeze traveled through slow as a yawn. Leaves stirred, and the sound was like soft fabric being smoothed. The cat reached a place where an ancient tree rose higher than the others. It was not the tallest, perhaps, but it felt the most present, as if it had been listening for ages. Its bark was ridged and deep, and its roots spilled outward in a wide circle, twisting and looping like a living labyrinth. At the base of the tree, where roots arched above the earth and dipped back down again, little hollows had formed. Some were filled with shadow. Some held fallen leaves, curled and dry like tiny boats. One hollow, sheltered between two thick roots, held a nest of moss so lush and springy it looked newly fluffed, as if prepared by unseen hands. The cat approached that hollow and stopped, her tail lifting in a gentle curve. She sniffed the moss, then pressed one paw into it. It gave way softly and rose back, forgiving and warm. She stepped in with another paw, then another, and turned in a slow circle, arranging herself as if she were a careful baker shaping dough. Above her, the old tree creaked, not in complaint, but in a deep, satisfied stretch. Its leaves trembled, sending down a few pale, papery bits that drifted like tiny feathers. The cat settled into the moss and tucked her paws beneath her chest. Her eyes narrowed to sleepy crescents. The hollow held her like a cradle made from the forest itself. The root walls on either side blocked any sharper wind. The moss beneath her held a faint, pleasant warmth, as if it remembered sunlight and offered that memory back. Somewhere nearby, a stream murmured. The sound carried through the roots and into the cat's bones, turning her body heavier, softer. She was very nearly asleep when something subtle changed in the air, a shimmer that was less like a sound and more like the moment just before a bell rings. The cat's ears tipped forward, not startled, only curious, in the way cats could be curious even in dreams. From a patch of shadow beneath a root on the far side of the tree, a glow appeared. It was dim at first, like a firefly's secret. Then it brightened into a small floating lantern of pale green gold light. It drifted closer, moving with the unhurried grace of a falling leaf that had decided to rise instead. The lantern glow hovered just above the mossy ground and then, as if remembering good manners, paused a respectful distance from the cat's hollow. The cat opened one eye halfway. The glow responded by dimming slightly, as if to say it would not be too bright. For a long moment, nothing happened. The cat watched. The glow waited. The forest breathed. Then, from within the light, a tiny figure became visible. Not sharp-edged or alarming, only softly defined, like a shape seen through mist. It was about the size of an acorn with wings that looked like translucent petals. Its hair, if it could be called hair, was a tuft of pale fluff, like thistledown. The small being bowed very slowly, as if bowing was part of the rhythm of the place. The cat blinked, and the blink was a kind of greeting. The tiny winged creature drifted closer and landed lightly on a root, folding its petal wings against its back. It turned its head as if listening to the stream, to the trees, to the quiet itself. And then it spoke, not with words that would startle the air, but with a voice like a thought spoken kindly. "This is a good hollow," it seemed to say. "A resting place. A safe place." The cat's other eye opened, but only a little. She did not sit up. She did not tense. She simply watched with the slow patience of a creature who understood naps as an art. The winged creature reached out and touched the root it sat upon, and the root responded with a faint, glowing vein of light that traveled along the bark like a gentle pulse. It moved in looping paths, following the curves of the roots, illuminating their twists and the moss that grew between them. The light was not harsh. It was the sort of glow you might imagine from moonlight filtered through water, or from a lantern held behind silk. The cat's whiskers twitched. Her eyelids grew heavy again. The glow warmed the hollow, and the moss seemed to fluff itself even more, rising to cradle her ribs and shoulders. The winged creature looked pleased, though its expression was subtle, like a smile that didn't need to be shown to be real. It lifted one hand, and a few tiny motes of light drifted upward and vanished into the canopy, as if offered to the leaves. Above, the old tree responded with a soft sigh through its branches. Leaves settled. The forest seemed to dim in the gentlest way, becoming more inward, more dream-friendly. The cat's eyes closed fully now, and her breathing deepened, in and out, slow and even. Her body softened into the moss until she looked like she had always belonged there, part of root and leaf and quiet. As she slept, the forest around her continued its small, calm movements. A beetle walked across a piece of bark with patient steps. A spider mended a thread of web, pulling and releasing with careful rhythm. A leaf detached and floated down, landing near the cat's tail without disturbing it. The winged creature remained on its root perch, keeping watch with no urgency. It seemed to listen to the cat's breathing as if it were a lullaby. From time to time, it shifted its gaze to the surrounding roots, tracing their pathways with serene attention. The roots themselves were a world. Thick ones arched like bridges, thin ones wove like cords, Some disappeared into the earth, and some rose again, creating tunnels and pockets, little rooms for small creatures to rest. Moss filled the gaps in velvety swells. Here and there, a mushroom cap glowed faintly, as if holding a bit of dusk inside it. If someone had looked closely, they might have noticed something else too. The roots weren't only wood and earth. They held stories. They held the memory of rains that had come in gentle sheets, soaking the forest until everything smelled new. They held the memory of summers when the canopy was so thick the light beneath it turned green. They held the memory of quiet winters when the ground slept under soft snow, and the roots held warmth like hidden embers. And now, they held the warm weight of a sleeping cat, tucked into the hollow as if the roots had grown in that shape just for her. In her sleep, the cat drifted into a dream that felt like walking without moving. She was in the same forest, and yet everything was softened, slightly brighter in the shadows, slightly quieter in the quiet. She padded along a route that rose like a path above the ground. Beneath her, the earth was dappled with light, and the stream's murmur sounded like someone humming behind closed lips. The winged creature floated nearby, a companion made of glow and gentleness. It did not lead with force. It simply drifted a little ahead, turning now and then, as if to make sure she was still comfortable. They came to a place where the roots of many trees intertwined. It looked like a great woven nest, big enough for a deer to curl within. In the center of that woven place sat a pool of still water, dark and clear, reflecting the canopy above like a perfect painting. The cat approached the pool's edge and looked down. Her reflection looked back, calm and sleepy-eyed. But behind her reflection in the water's depth, she saw something that made her whiskers lift with mild curiosity. Tiny lights moving like fish, weaving in slow circles. The winged creature hovered above the pool and dipped a fingertip into the surface. Rings spread outward, perfectly round, and as they moved, the lights below rose toward the surface like curious fireflies. One by one they surfaced, not breaking the water as insects would, but becoming part of the air, lifting into the space above the pool. They gathered around the cat, not close enough to overwhelm, just near enough to warm the air. The cat's dream body felt lighter, as if she could step on air if she wished. She did not need to. It was enough to stand there and feel the forest's gentle attention. The tiny lights began to drift, forming a slow spiral that turned above the pool. As they turned, the air filled with a sound so soft it was almost silent, a lullaby made of rustling leaves, distant water, and the deep creak of old wood settling. The winged creature seemed to hum along without sound, and the cat's eyelids lowered even in the dream. The spiral of lights turned slower and slower, like a ceiling fan winding down at night. In that dream place, the cat understood something without thinking it. The forest knew how to rest. The roots knew how to hold. The moss knew how to soften. Even the air knew how to lull. And so the dream began to fade, not abruptly, but like a candle being covered with a glass. The flame still there, just gentler. Back in the hollow among roots, the cat shifted slightly. She stretched one paw forward in her sleep, claws extending and then relaxing. Her toes flexed, then she tucked her paw back beneath her, curling more snugly. The winged creature watched, and the glow around it softened further, as if it were dimming the world on purpose. A new sound joined the stream's murmur, the faint patter of something tiny like fingertips on leaves. A soft drizzle began above the canopy, so light it barely reached the ground. Drops struck leaves and rolled along veins, gathering into larger drops before falling in slow, spaced-out taps. The roots drank in the dampness through the earth. The moss welcomed it, becoming even richer, even more cool and springy. The cat did not wake. The hollow was sheltered. The roots formed a natural roof, and the cat's fur held warmth against the gentle cool of the forest air. Her breathing remained slow and steady in a rhythm that seemed to match the dripping leaves. The winged creature lifted its head, sensing the rain, and it rose from its root perch. With a slow flutter of petal wings, it drifted along the curve of the old tree's trunk, tracing a path where the bark formed deep channels. As it moved, it left behind a faint sheen like dew catching moonlight. The sheen spread across the bark, not changing it, only highlighting what was already there. Ridges and grooves like a map of patience. In one of the bark's deep folds, a small snail was tucked, sleeping with its body drawn in. The winged creature paused, hovering nearby, and the glow around it warmed the air just enough to keep the snail's resting place comfortable. Then it drifted on, passing a knot in the wood that looked like a closed eye. The tree seemed to keep dreaming as the creature moved. At last, the winged creature returned to the cat's hollow. It hovered above the moss and let a single mote of light fall like a slow snowflake. The mote landed near the cat's head and sank into the moss, leaving behind a gentle warmth that spread outward in a soft circle. The cat sighed, a quiet puff of breath that lifted the moss by her nose. Her whiskers relaxed. Her ears settled into a restful angle. Time flowed on without insistence. The drizzle ended, or perhaps it simply became so light that it was no longer a drizzle at all. Only the memory of rain clinging to leaves. The forest smelled cleaner, richer, deeper. The stream's murmur became a touch louder as a few more drops joined it. Somewhere, an owl turned its head and blinked slowly. Somewhere else, a rabbit shifted in its burrow. All of it was quiet and ordinary and safe. The winged creature, still hovering nearby, began to weave a slow circle around the hollow. As it circled, it seemed to stitch the air with softness. The circle was not a barrier, not a wall. It was more like a reminder whispered to the forest. This is a place for sleeping. The old tree's roots responded by settling a fraction deeper into the earth. The hollow became even more snug, a little pocket of warmth and moss and steady breathing, and the cat drifted deeper, her sleep becoming less like a pause and more like a gentle voyage. Her dreams grew quieter, less filled with images, more filled with sensations. The warmth of moss, the steady pulse of root wood beneath, the distant song of water. If thoughts came, they came like soft clouds. If they went like soft clouds too. A faint glow persisted in the hollow, not bright enough to wake anyone, only bright enough to make the shadow feel friendly. The winged creature's lantern light hovered like a bedside lamp turned down low. Now and then, the creature listened, as if listening for something beyond sound. It listened for the forest's rhythm, for the way the trees spoke to one another through roots and soil. It listened for the way the sleeping cat's breath joined that rhythm, making it sweeter. In the distance, a breeze returned, slow and careful. It moved through the canopy and caused the leaves to rub softly together. The sound was like pages turning in a book that no one needed to finish tonight. The breeze found the old tree and moved along its trunk, then slid down toward the roots. When it reached the hollow, it slowed even more, as if it knew better than to hurry. It cooled the cat's fur just a little, the way a cool side of a pillow feels good against a warm cheek. The cat's tail tip flicked once, then stilled. The winged creature drifted closer and lowered itself to the moss near the cat's paws. There it folded its petal wings and sat as if it too were ready for rest. Its glow dimmed until it was barely more than moonlight. The forest's sounds became fewer. The stream remained steady and soothing. The occasional drip from a leaf remained, slower now. The deep, almost imperceptible settling of wood and earth remained, like the forest, breathing in sleep. Everything else softened into silence. In that quiet, the cat's sleep became profound. Her body was fully at ease, her muscles loose, her paws tucked, her face serene. She looked like a small, living symbol of rest, a warm comma in the long sentence of the forest. The old tree held her with its roots. The moss held her with its softness. The air held her with its calm. And as the forest kept watch, nothing demanded attention, nothing pulled, nothing rushed, only the gentle rhythm of breathing. In the hush, the lantern glow faded further until even it felt like part of the dark. The winged creature's eyes closed, and it began to drift into its own small sleep, leaning lightly against a root, as if the wood were a familiar friend. The stream continued to murmur its simple, repeating song. The cat slept on, deeper and deeper, as if she were sinking into a warm, safe place that had always been waiting. The forest, too, seemed to drift. Leaves stilled, branches rested, the air settled, and now everything begins to slow in the story, the way the world slows when night has fully arrived. The hollow among roots is still. The moss is quiet. The cat's breathing is soft, in and out, in and out. old tree stands steady, patient and calm. The winged creature's glow is only a faint hush of light. The stream is a distant, soothing whisper. The world feels far away and the resting place feels close. As the quiet deepens, the sentences can become gentler, like footsteps fading down a hallway. The cat is safe, the roots are warm, the air is kind, the forest is watching softly, without needing anything. And you can let your own breath follow that same rhythm, slow, easy, unhurried. There is nothing to do now, nothing to hold, only rest, only softness, only sleep. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep well.